You've probably seen this guy. If you don't recognize this picture, you probably recognize this picture. He is, as we speak, getting ready to go to trial. Let's talk about why. Daniel Larson was born in 1998 into a really bad and sad home. He was severely neglected as a child and as a result was taken away from his parents and put into the care of his grandmother. There's a video online of when Daniel was only 14 years old and attending Tennyson Center for Children, which has been described to be a treatment center for emotionally and crisis-affected children. He started going to that treatment center after he moved to Denver, Colorado to live with his grandmother. Around this time as well, he was diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and bipolar disorder, and because of that, he needed a little bit of extra help figuring out how to navigate through life. His grandma was more than willing to be the person that Daniel needed, but unfortunately, she lost her battle to cancer in 2019. At that treatment center, which was not his first, he showed up really angry and unsure of the world and of himself, but after a year and a half of living there and then moving in with his grandmother, there was a lot of improvement in Daniel. But when he lost her, I can imagine that felt like he was taking 10 steps backward. At that Tennyson Center, Daniel met a man called Bob Proctor, who he really bonded with. Bob also got to know Daniel's grandmother. So after he heard about her passing, he kind of stepped up to be that support system for Daniel because he knew that he would need it. And even though Daniel knew that there was something different about him, he found a passion in singing and acting, and he really wanted to give it a real shot. That treatment center and the time that he spent with his grandmother gave him the confidence that he needed to believe in himself. He starts making music, and then he starts posting on social media, on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, etc., and his videos started getting a lot of traction, a lot of attention, and his following started to grow a lot. He also started posting daily vlogs, doing lives, posting videos of him just talking in addition to singing and doing music. And because of his quirky, unique personality, people on the internet really started to hype him up and encourage him. His following grew, his confidence grew, and all of a sudden he started talking about how he was finding a lot of success in the music industry. And he said that he started hearing a lot from different label companies that wanted to sign him. And because he had a pretty big following, by the way, he made new TikTok accounts all the time. There were a ton of them. A lot of them don't exist anymore, but he would get banned and then he would just make a different account. But anyway, point being, he started acting like he was famous. He loved it. He felt like it. Whether his comment section was filled with people who were actually his fans, who actually wanted the best for him, or people who only had bad intentions, is kind of up for you to decide. But point being, he was getting a lot of attention, and Daniel started making TikToks talking about the most random things. For example, he announced that he was going to be running for president, promising things that he would do. He would often talk about controversial topics, interesting online claims, and he would also record himself and post videos online of him having odd interactions in public and talking to people in public that would raise a lot of concern from his followers that were watching. And as you can imagine, people on the internet saw this as an open invitation basically to come in and criticize them without holding back. So while you did have those people who were supporting him, looking out for him, there were just as many people, if not more, with clear bad intentions. Daniel also very often talked about this unhealthy obsession that he had with Grace VanderWaal, an American singer-songwriter who won America's Got Talent. However, this was one of the first things that sent major alarm bells to people, given the things that he would say about Grace at times, more oftentimes than not, towards the end, were so graphic in nature. And when he started talking about Grace in that way, she was only 16 years old. In one of his videos, Daniel claimed that him and Grace were in a relationship. I think in one, he said that they were getting married and that she was having his babies. I think he also said at one point, although that obviously was not the case. But there is a chance that Daniel could have been convinced that what he was saying was true, because when he's talking about it, if you listen to him, he seems so sure of what he's saying, even if the things that he was saying could not be any further away from the truth. And when people started to notice how quick Daniel was to believe anything that he was told, they started taking advantage of that for their own entertainment, because he would think that everything that he read was true and he would take any and every comment as his reality. So very constantly, people would make fake accounts of either Grace VanderWaal or fake record label companies or fake management companies. They would reach out to Daniel pretending to be real, only to feed into what already felt like such an unstable state of mind, which only led to those people on the internet to push it one step further. Daniel Larson's popularity very quickly became negative, but a big turning point of it was in November of 2020 when Daniel's Pinterest account and search history was leaked. And on there were a lot of disturbing images of girls who were not of legal age, a lot of pictures under a pin titled Girl Crushes, and another pin that had the map of the age of consent in different states. When people also looked at his liked and reposted videos on TikTok, they noticed that it was a lot of videos and pictures of children, disturbing in nature and uncomfortable to any normal person. Shortly after that, Daniel would post a video addressing this, saying that it was his Pinterest account, that the allegations online in regards to himself and children were very true, and saying that he had an attraction to young kids. He was also apologizing for it. Later on though, however, he would take everything back and he would say that his social media accounts were hacked fact and that the weird behavior was not him. Some people believed him, of course, a lot of others did not. Throughout this time, by the way, it's believed that Daniel was living in group homes, still in contact with Bob Proctor, who he referred to be his mentor, but nothing in his life was stable. Keep in mind that he was struggling with autism, ADHD, and bipolar disorder. He is also believed, in the opinion of some doctors who treated him, that he possibly also struggled with schizophrenia because of several occasions where he reportedly had really bad delusions, causing him to have delusional ideas of his own, but also making him more vulnerable to believe anything that anyone said to him, no matter how crazy things sounded. Also, I'm obviously not saying anything negative about people who struggle with similar things. I'm just saying that in Daniel's case, without the proper medication and treatment and care, on top of already being a target for people of the internet, that all combined, it did not help Daniel's mental health, which in result only made his behavior and his actions worse. In videos, Daniel started to behave very erratically. He would have breakdowns where he was either really angry or he was crying. He would damage walls by kicking and banging his head against them. He would talk about children and girls in ways that are not at all acceptable in any way, shape, or form. He also once showed himself live wearing nothing on his bottom half, like quite literally nothing. That got his account banned, but he created a new TikTok account the same day. He would also talk about any and every controversial topic that you can think of, saying things that did not really make sense, all while still being in this fake relationship in his head with Grace Vanderwall. He would believe messages of people that would message him saying that they were management companies and or record label companies. Fake numbers of people pretending to be children would also text Daniel, trying to see if he would fall for it and say incriminating things under the perception that they were children, and he would every single time. He would talk about fighting people, lighting fireworks inside of buildings, and his plans to severely damage and destroy public property with people inside just to see what would happen. It was not good. And then around 2021, Daniel Larson was left homeless, only making things go downhill even faster. He became known for dining and dashing. He would go to restaurants such as Cheesecake Factory and order multiple dishes, and then he would get on live on social media and ask his followers to send him money in order to pay for his meals. When he was sent money, he would pay, but when he wasn't, he couldn't afford to, so he would just leave. And that left him to be banned of so many restaurants. Also, because he had nowhere to live, he also started sleeping in public bathrooms like Planet Fitness bathrooms and casino bathrooms. In one video, he says that he was banned by over 30 Planet Fitnesses for sleeping in their bathrooms. He was also banned from a ton of casinos, and he was just constantly getting kicked out of places. Then he would record himself getting kicked out, yelling at people yelling at him. He would also make videos declaring war, saying that he was going to start a war and talking about all the things that he was planning on doing to do so. There was really not a single thing in Daniel's life that was stable, and that showed. And it is not surprising to know that a lot of people saw Daniel as someone who was quite literally losing his mind in front of all the people on social media to watch. It also comes to no one's surprise that Daniel's behavior led to him getting in trouble with law enforcement on a number of times. He was arrested for various things, including attempt to unlawfully damage and destroy a building and other real and personal property, such as university campuses, courthouses, nonprofit centers, the White House, FBI headquarters, evasion of justice after not showing up to court, offenses of crimes of violence. And then in 2024, he was charged with 7 federal charges. Those were all in relations to the things that he was claiming he was going to do to bring harm to others. And the path that he was going down, also specifically his search history on the internet, showed that he did have intentions to do these things. Whether or not he would or wouldn't have, we will not know, thankfully. So he was arrested and he was ordered to see a doctor for his mental health. The doctor confirming many things that dated back to Daniel's childhood. For example, histories of head injuries and trauma. A report states that his mother reported that Daniel had, quote, non-accidental head injury around the age of 3 weeks and a seizure around 5 months, end quote. Also states that his mother hit him with a hammer at 8 years old, that Daniel demonstrated executive dysfunction concerns at the age of 12 and 13, and that in the past he had been hospitalized after he hit his head and broke multiple holes in the walls after he felt overwhelmed. All the things that Daniel struggled with as a child carried on into his adulthood. And the doctor also stated that Daniel struggled with delusional beliefs that were only made worse and encouraged by the people on the internet who he believed were his fans. Because of that, Daniel was not fit to stand trial, and he was instead advised to continue taking antipsychotic medication and treatment at a medical center. The competency question on whether or not he was able to stand trial has been dragging on for almost 2 years. He most recently had court hearings on January 22nd and February 3rd of 2026 to determine this. And after months of psychiatric evaluations and testimonies from multiple psychiatrists, a judge has very recently ruled that Daniel Larson is competent to proceed in his federal criminal case. A trial date has been set for April 20th of 2026. I think that every single aspect of this case is so sad. I think the things that he did and said are really disturbing and really scary. But I also think that he needs so much help that he did not get. I'm going to be looking out for this trial, so yeah. But that's it for me today. Also, my eyes, I feel like have been so red the last few videos. I have the world's most sensitive eyes and they get red if I like don't blink often enough. So I'm not crying, even though it looks like it. My eyes are just really sensitive. Anyway, hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy. And I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.